The gate slammed. No wind, no wagon, just the sound. He dropped the horseshoe he'd been bending over. It clattered against the dirt. He waited, hand at his hip, not sure for what. Then the knock came. Software wrong for the hour, wrong for the land. He stepped out onto the porch. Empty. Then I looked down. A baby, swaddled in thick, hand-stitched cloth, barely bigger than a sack of cornmeal. Her eyes were open, round, unmoving. Her lips didn't quiver. No noise, no cry, no sound from the woods either. Beside her, a crate of apples, half rotted, half golden, and behind it, the gate, straight, fixed, standing. He hadn't fixed that gate in 10 years, hadn't touched the hinges since the night the barn burned and she left. He crouched. His fingers hovered near the baby's cheek. She blinked once. Are you hungry? Nothing. Are you in someone's trouble? Nothing. She didn't smile, didn't frown, just stared. He lifted her with both hands, expecting her to wail. She didn't. He set her inside the doorway, turned back, eyed the apples. They smelled sweet, too sweet. He picked one up, soft around the edge. Beneath it, a nail. Bent. Hand-forged, like the ones he used to drive into that gate when he was 17. He glanced at the boards again. Too clean, too new. Wood didn't stay that color in this dust. He picked up the crate and brought it in. The baby watched him the whole time. He set her on the counter. She didn't move. He leaned against the doorway and stared. Then came another knock. He spun. Nothing at the door. Just the same porch, same quiet trees, same stillness in the barn that never felt still when he looked at it too long. He waited. Someone playing. No answer. Sheriff? That you? Still nothing. He stepped outside. Dirt silent beneath his boots. He scanned the fence line. Empty. Even the crows had gone quiet. Back inside, the baby hadn't budged. Her eyes locked on his. He sat down. I don't get milk, he muttered. Don't get soft hands. Don't even know your name. The baby blinked again. He opened the crate. Apples. All the same color, all the same shape. Too perfect. Too placed. He lifted another apple. Underneath, a folded cloth. He unfolded it. His crest, stitched into the corner, his mother's hand. Long buried. He dropped it on the table. I didn't ask for this. The baby didn't answer. He looked toward the fireplace. Cold. He hadn't lit it in a week. He gathered some wood, laid it carefully, lit the match. I watched it and caught it. The baby still didn't cry. You're real quiet, he said. She blinked. Are you sick? No blink. He stepped closer. Who brought you here? Silence. He checked the road at sunset. I walked the ridge, asked the dogs. Nothing. No trail, no prints, no scent, but apples and wood smoke. He sat on the steps that night and watched the gate. Didn't move, didn't squeak. His boots thudded against the porch as he paced. He couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The next morning, she was still there. Eyes open. He tried a bottle. She took it. Quiet, no mess. No noise. He spoke to her again. You know this house? Still nothing. You remember it. Her eyes twitched. Just a flicker. He stepped back. That crate. That gate. He looked again. Something nailed to the inside post. A ribbon. Faded red. He pulled it off. Frayed on both ends. Smelled like iron. He didn't tie ribbons. Never did. Only one person had. He looked down at the baby again. I buried her. The baby's eyes didn't flinch. I saw her die. The ribbon slipped from his hand. He opened the crate again. Pulled out another apple. It hissed in his palm. He dropped it. It thudded without splitting. He picked up the cloth again, ran his fingers over the stitching. Her hands. Her thread. No one else would have known the crest back was sewn with his birth date, but it was there. He sat down hard. You're not her. He said it to the fire, to the apple, to the quiet. You're not her. The baby stared. He held his head in his hands. Am I going mad? A soft thump. He looked up. The baby had kicked the crate. The apples had rolled. One came to rest near the fireplace. He went to pick it up. On the bottom, burned into the skin, 3 letters. M-A-R. He stared at it. The fire hissed behind him. Mary. His breath caught. He turned. She was gone. He spun in place. No sound. Then, another soft knock. He opened the door fast. Nothing. Except the crate was empty. The gate was open. The ribbon had returned to the post. And on the porch boards, an apple, split, still warm. He picked it up. The other half lay behind him near the fire. The baby was back in the corner, her eyes closed, asleep. Still didn't cry. He carried the baby into town at first light. She didn't make a sound the whole ride, just stared, hands tight to the blanket. The crate sat beside her in the wagon bed. He'd tried to leave it behind. She screamed, once, loud and sharp enough to stop his breath. So the crate came too. The sheriff was standing outside the jailhouse, chewing on a matchstick, watching dust settle where the schoolhouse used to be. "Did you see someone coming up my road last night?" the man asked, dropping down from the wagon. The sheriff spat. "No." "Does anyone say they fixed my gate?" The sheriff looked at him. "Your what?" "My gate." The sheriff stared harder. No change in his face. No twitch. "Your gate's been broken for 10 years. "I know that." "Then why are you asking?" "Because it ain't broken now." The sheriff didn't move, then said flat, "You sure? You want to come see it?" "No." "Why not?" "I don't cross your land." "Since when?" The sheriff scratched his jaw. "Since your barn burned." He looked down at the baby in the crate. "Is she yours?" "No." "You steal her?" "No." The sheriff leaned forward a bit. "She looks like you." "She looks like no one." The sheriff stepped off the porch and bent closer to the crate. "That family crest on the side? It was my mother's." "Thought it burned." "It did." "She is stitching from the grave now?" "I didn't put it there." The sheriff's voice dropped low. "You bring her here for a reason?" "I brought her here for answers." "You sure you want 'em?" "No." They stared at each other. "Apples," he said. "What about them?" "Crate full of 'em." "And?" "I didn't grow any." The sheriff glanced toward the wagon. "She is quiet. She doesn't cry. Babies cry. This one doesn't." The sheriff looked back at the man. "Then maybe she ain't a baby." He didn't say anything. The sheriff stepped away again. "You check with Eli?" "Eli, the ridge farmer. Only one who watches your stretch of road." He nodded. I walked back to the wagon, picked up the crate. The baby blinked once, then closed her eyes. He took her back down the road, past the post office, past the dried-up creek, up the ridge. Eli was splitting wood. "You see a man last night?" he asked without greeting. Eli looked up, paused. "What kind of man?" "Any kind." Eli scratched his chin. "Was chopping after dusk. Saw movement near the trees. I thought it was a deer." "Was it?" "No." "What was it?" "Too tall." "Face?" "No." "Clothes?" "Don't remember." "Shadow?" Eli stopped. "No." The man narrowed his eyes. "No shadow?" Eli nodded once. "Just the man, no shadow. Slide across the edge of the trees. Didn't rustle a leaf." "Which way'd he go?" "Toward your place." "You sure?" "I ain't blind." "Why didn't you come tell me?" "Didn't want to." "Why?" "You think I want that thing knowing I saw it?" He looked down at the baby again. Still sleeping, still silent. He turned and walked back to the wagon. "Your barn burned strangely," Eli said behind him. "I know." "Strange things stay burned." "I know." Eli spat in the dirt. "The gate's been broken for 10 years." "I know." The man rode home slower this time, watched the trees. I watched the road. Nothing moved. He didn't go inside when he got back. I walked straight to the gate, bent down, ran his fingers across the hinges. Smooth, cold, set clean into the post. He pulled the gate. It swung easy. He stepped inside, carried the crate to the porch, brought the baby in, set her down in the corner again. She opened her eyes. "Still don't cry," he muttered. She blinked once. That night, he left the crate near her and tried to sleep upstairs, but something pressed into his back. He sat up, pulled back the pillow. An apple. He stood, walked downstairs, opened the door. I looked toward the woods. Nothing. He walked outside barefoot, checked the well. Another apple at the base of the stones. He walked around the barn. I saw nothing. When he stepped back inside, the baby was sitting upright, watching the fire. "Who are you?" She turned toward him, then back to the flames. He left the crate near her again. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, his boots were full of apples, 4 stacked in each, firm, shining. He dumped them on the porch. The crate sat in its place, the baby inside. He sat beside her. Who fixed my gate? She didn't move. What are you here for? Still. Are you in debt? He didn't expect an answer, didn't get one. He looked toward the barn, didn't blink. He brought the baby to church, wrapped in an old quilt, left the crate behind, though maybe the woman wouldn't notice her eyes right away. They noticed. They didn't look at the blanket, didn't ask who she was, just stared, silent. The first to speak was the widow with white hands. That ain't your baby. He nodded once. I know. Whose is she? Don't know that either. The preacher's wife stepped forward, didn't come close. What's her name? She doesn't say. She doesn't cry? No. She sleeps, only beside the crate. The preacher's wife frowned. Crate. Apples. What kind? Wrong kind. The woman beside her whispered, Look at her eyes. He shifted the quilt back. Someone gasped. They weren't blue, weren't brown, just off. A color the eye didn't hold on to, like it moved when you looked at it. The widow said, That's a debt. He turned toward her. What? She ain't a blessing. I didn't ask for her. You didn't have to. The preacher's wife shook her head. She looks like the sheriff's boy did. The room went still. The man stared. The sheriff ain't got no boy. The preacher's wife looked away. Never did, he repeated. Doesn't mean he didn't lose one. He stepped back. What are you saying? She looks like him. There was no one. Ask the sheriff. I did. What did he say? He stared. The preacher's wife crossed her arms. You come here for what then? I thought maybe you'd bless her. She doesn't need blessing. Does she need anything? The widow spoke again. She needs to go back where she came from. I don't know where that is. You will. He pulled the quilt tight around the child and turned to leave. The preacher's wife said behind him, Leave the baby. Take the quilt. He didn't answer. The gate at the edge of the churchyard was open when he stepped through it. He hadn't seen anyone touch it. He walked straight home. The crate was still there, by the hearth. He set her back inside. She curled without noise. He sat in the chair and stared at the apples. Count them again. 12. Always 12. He took one, bit it. Rot inside, clean outside. He spit it into the fire. The fire hissed. Then it went quiet. Later he walked back to town, found the sheriff at the old bench near the jail. Have you ever had a boy? He asked. The sheriff didn't look up. No. You sure? Sure. You lose one? I said no. The preacher's wife thinks otherwise. She ain't in my house. She said the baby looks like him. There ain't no him. The man waited. The sheriff finally glanced up. Why are you really asking? She won't touch the baby. Neither would I. Why? She's not a baby. Then what is she? Something owed. To who? The sheriff didn't blink. Have you ever seen those eyes before? I've seen worse. Have you ever buried a boy? The sheriff stood. Go home. Have you ever seen a man walk without a shadow? I said go. The man turned. The sheriff said quietly, Don't feed her. He paused. She doesn't eat. She doesn't sleep either. She watches. I know. He didn't stop walking. That night, the wind picked up. He locked the door, left the crate beside the fire, sat at the window. The gate creaked. He watched. It swung open. No wind, no footsteps. He walked to the porch, looked out. Nothing. He stepped down, walked to the gate. No tracks, no sound. He turned back. The baby stood at the doorway, not crying, just standing, watching. You got legs now? She blinked. Why are you standing? She didn't answer. He picked her up, set her back in the crate. You stay. She stared at the fire. He walked to the well, just to check. Another apple. This one had a bite taken out. He left it there. Back inside, he found her out of the crate again, standing, hands on the quilt, not moving. He didn't pick her up this time. You're not mine, he said. She didn't move. You're not a gift. Nothing. You're something I owe. She turned toward him. He flinched. Why me? She sat back down. He lit a second fire in the barn. The crate wouldn't burn. He tried. It smoked, then stopped. No black, no flame. He dropped it, kicked it, left it in the dark. Back inside, she was already in a new box. The apples had followed. 12 again. She didn't cry. He heard splashing. It was faint, just enough to stop him mid-step on the back porch. He held his breath, listened harder. The sound came again, wet, slow. He grabbed the lantern. I walked toward the old well. It had been dry for years, since the fire, since the screaming, since the gate snapped, shut behind her. He stepped closer, raised the light. Something moved. He leaned in. Apples, floating, piled deep, some bobbing gently, some still. He pulled back. I looked around. No prints in the dirt, no wind, no footsteps. He turned toward the house. The crate sat just outside the door. He walked to it. I looked down. She was wide awake. "Come look," he said. The baby didn't move. He lifted the crate, carried it over. "Hold it level with the stones." She blinked, then giggled, the first sound she'd made since arriving. Software too soft. She reached one small hand toward the dark below. He pulled the crate back. "You want one?" he asked. She blinked again. He set the crate on the ground, looked into the well once more. The apples hadn't moved, but something below them had. A ripple, not from the wind. He dropped a rock in. No splash, just a slow thud. He stepped back. That night, he didn't eat. He sat in the corner, watching her. She'd fallen asleep with the crate beside her again, the quilt wrapped up tight. The fire crackled low. He closed his eyes, woke up to dripping. Not rain, not a pipe. He lit the lantern again. I walked into the kitchen, stopped. Apples stacked across the table, still wet. Some steamed, some glistened. 12, always 12. He picked one up, still warm, smelled like smoke. He turned it over. A nail was lodged in the bottom, bent, hand-forged. He pulled it out, held it up to the light. It matched the ones on his old gate. He turned around. The crate was empty. He rushed to the living room. She was there, standing again, hand pressed to the window. "Who brought them?" She didn't look back. He stepped closer. "You." She lowered her hand, turned around, still silent, still watching. He looked toward the fireplace. The apples sat there now, all 12, in a ring. He didn't move them. He waited. When the fire went out, so did the apples. Gone. No noise, no ash. The next morning, he went to the well. The apples were gone, just black water now. He dropped in a bucket, draw it up. Only mud, and something sharp inside. He reached in, pulled out a ribbon, frayed, red. He stared. "Yours?" he asked aloud. She didn't answer. He dropped the ribbon, let it float in the bucket. He carried it inside, set it on the floor. She crawled to it, placed her hand on the rim. Then I looked at him. "You remember this?" Nothing. He sat beside her. "Have you been here before?" She didn't blink. He leaned in closer. "You came through the fire, didn't you?" She lifted one hand, touched his cheek. It was cold. He pulled away. That night, he bolted the door, set traps near the porch, left no fire burning. He waited. At midnight, the smell hit him. Smoke, sweet, rotten. He stepped outside. The well glowed faintly. He walked slowly, careful. Inside, apples again, piled higher. One moved. He turned to leave. She stood behind him, crate at her feet, eyes wide. "You want me to take them?" She blinked once. He looked back at the well, then at her, then nodded. Together they dragged the crate close. He filled it, one by one. No splashes, no resistance. Each apple was heavier than it looked. When full, he turned to her. She climbed in, lay on top. He stared. "You're not mine," he whispered. She reached for his shirt, gripped it. He didn't pull away, just sat. Watched the water again. I watched the ripples fade. I watched the apples drip red onto the ground. He didn't blink. He found her near the fireplace, knees in the cold ash, fingers blackened. She didn't turn when he stepped in. She was drawing something. Slow, focused. He crouched down. "What are you doing?" She didn't speak. She dragged her finger across the hearth, leaving shaky letters. L-E-N. He froze. He rubbed his mouth with the back of his hand and looked again. "Len. Where'd you hear that?" She didn't answer. "That name," he said again. "You don't know that name." She wiped the letters out with her palm, started a new one. C-H-A-R-L. "Stop that." She kept writing. He grabbed her hand. She looked up, ash across her cheek, calm. "You don't know those men," he said. "You weren't here." She pointed to the firewood. "No," he said. "No more tricks." She pointed again. "You want something from me? You say it." She opened her mouth, whispered, "He's under there." He stood fast. "What did you say?" She reached toward the logs again. "I buried that firewood myself," he said. "You don't," she whispered again. "He's under there." He stepped back. He pulled the crate closer, set her in it. "You stay right there." She didn't move. He knelt by the fireplace, lifted the logs one by one, shoved them aside. Dirt, cold and packed. He found a spot near the back where the brick dipped low. He pushed at the floor. A corner lifted. A letter. Half burned. He pulled it out slowly. Edges singed. Ink smeared. He sat at the table, unfolded it. The baby watched him. The name Len again, scrawled in rough writing. Then, "Buried truth doesn't rot, it waits." He swallowed. The rest was ash. He didn't remember writing it. I didn't remember reading it. He folded it again. She was out of the crate now, back in the ash, writing, B-U-R. He grabbed her up. "That's enough," he snapped. She didn't flinch. He carried her to the barn, set her on the bench. "You want to raise ghosts?" She stared at the wall. "You want me to answer for things I didn't do?" She blinked. He turned away. He picked up an old hammer, dropped it into a box. She climbed down. "You know who Charles is?" She nodded. "Then tell me." She stepped to the barn door. "Where are you going?" She pointed to the apple tree. Line. He followed her outside. She walked barefoot through the dirt, stopped near the fence. "Where is he?" he asked. She looked down. "Len." No answer. He looked toward the hills. "Town said he ran off," he muttered. She crouched, scraped her finger across the dry ground. Another name, Thomas. He knelt. "That name's not for saying." She pointed to the hill. "No," he whispered. "We don't speak to him." She pointed harder. He walked up the rise, past the tree stump, past the old split fence, stopped, saw the edge of something dark in the dirt. He kicked it, an old shoe, half buried, burnt at the toe. He turned back. She was standing by the fence. The wind moved her hair, but she didn't blink. He came down slowly. "You're not a baby," he said. She didn't nod. "You're a memory." Still, she watched. He turned toward the house. He didn't look back. He set 2 plates on the table. Bread, salt, 1 boiled egg. Just like before. Before the barn, before the silence, before the girl in the crate. The baby sat near the hearth, eyes on the door, crate beside her, lid off, apples stacked neat. 12, always 12. He stepped onto the porch, lit the lantern, waited. The sheriff came slow, boots dragging dust. "You came," the man said. "I shouldn't have." "Why not?" "You know why. I asked you for supper." "I didn't come hungry." "You came scared?" The sheriff stared at the step. "What's wrong?" The sheriff didn't move. "Are you waiting for something?" The sheriff looked at the crate through the window. "You know what that is?" "I know what it was." "Then tell me." "Not out here." "Then step in." The sheriff shook his head. "I don't cross that porch." "Since when?" "Since the fire. That was 10 years ago." "It still burns." The man stepped down, stood in front of him. "You sent her, didn't you?" "No." "You knew she was coming." "I felt it." "You felt it?" "In my teeth. Like ash." "What is she?" "Not what. Who?" The man folded his arms. "Her name was Ruth." The sheriff nodded. "I remember." "You remember watching her burn?" "I remember watching you scream." "You helped no one." "There was no one left to help." "There was her." The sheriff pointed at the door. "She was carrying." "What?" "You know what?" I mean she gave birth before the roof caved." "No one said that." "I didn't say that." "Why now?" "Because you called me." The baby's shadow shifted behind the window. "She's listening," the sheriff said. "She doesn't talk. She doesn't need to." The man stepped back. "You're going to tell me everything." "Not in that house." "Why not?" "She remembers." "Who?" "Ruth." "She's dead." "Not all the way." The man sat on the porch rail. "You were there that night." "I was first on scene." "You told the papers it was lightning." "No storm that night." "You lied." "I protected the town." "You protected yourself." "I protected my name." "Whose?" The sheriff looked away. "She left behind that crate," he said. "Apples. She used to hand 'em out after church. Kids thought she was magic, made 'em taste like cinnamon. She gave me one." "She gave him one too." The man's voice dropped. Who? My father. Sheriff before you. Yeah. She knew about the ledger. She knew too much. She found the graves. She dug one open. The man stood. You killed her. I watched her go silent. Same thing. The baby sat still, eyes locked through the glass. She wasn't supposed to be pregnant. The sheriff said. She was. With his child. Whose? Your brother. The man didn't blink. You knew. I saw them. And you told no one? Wouldn't have mattered. It mattered to her. It matters now. The sheriff pulled something from his coat. It was folded cloth. He handed it over. A baby's bonnet, singed, edge stitched with the old family crest. Where did you get this? Sheriff's office, locked drawer. You kept it. I couldn't burn it. She came back for it. She came back for him. The man stepped to the door. I opened it. The sheriff didn't move. She's inside, the man said. I know. She's waiting. I'm not going in. She remembers you. She remembers everything. Tell me what else she knows. The sheriff touched the porch rail. She knows he was buried wrong. Who? The one who came before her. She knows about the orchard. She knows where it ends. The baby stood now, holding an apple. Tell me what I owe, the man whispered. She ain't come for you. Then why me? Because your gate was open. The baby raised the apple. The sheriff stepped back. You're afraid of her? I was afraid of what we did. The apple hit the floor inside. It didn't roll, just stopped. The baby sat again. Come inside, the man said. The sheriff turned away. He never crossed the porch. He rode out before dawn. Didn't tell the sheriff. Didn't bring the baby. Just the crate. Apples stacked neat. Lid tied down. The orchard sat quiet. The trees brittle and hunched like old men. Only one house at the edge. Gray wood. Tilted chimney. No smoke. He stepped off the wagon, carried the crate in both arms. I walked slowly. The front door creaked before he touched it. The widow stood inside, thin, barefoot, white braid to her waist. He nodded once. You know me? She didn't answer. Do you remember him? She blinked. I brought something. He set the crate down, untied the rope. She stared at the apples. She stepped forward, reached in, touched one like it might burn. Then she began to cry. No sound. Just tears down a face that hadn't moved in years. She picked up the crate, carried it inside without a word. He followed. Inside smelled of dust and rot. Quilt scraps hung from the rafters. No furniture but one long table and a chair. She opened a hatch on the floor, motioned. He climbed down after her, into a cellar lined with stone and cedar. Cool. Still. At the far wall, a quilt hung stretched between two nails. She lit a lamp. He stepped close. It was old. Faded, but each square was stitched with a name. Len, Charles, Toma, Mara. He touched one. My brother. She pointed. Another name. He read it. Sheriff's father. She moved her hand lower. A square without thread. Just ash-smudged linen. Blank. Who is that? She didn't speak. Just stared. Ruth. She nodded. Her square never got stitched. She shook her head. Why? She pointed to the firewood in the corner. He stepped over, moved one log. Beneath it, a ribbon. Red, torn. She picked it up, placed it in his hand. He held it. You gave this to her? She shook her head. She gave it to you. She pointed behind him, to the quilt. You stitched this? She nodded. Why save the names? She mouthed, slow and dry, to remember who they took. He stepped back. You knew about the fire? She nodded. You saw it? She nodded again. Why didn't you speak? She touched her throat. Burned. He swallowed. She gave birth before the fire. The widow's eyes filled again. She left her child in the crate. She placed a hand over her heart, then pointed to the blank square. She didn't leave herself. She took the ribbon from him, laid it on the square, then stepped away. Who burned the barn? She didn't answer. He stepped forward. Was it the sheriff? She closed her eyes. He looked down at the names again. One stitched differently, rough, not like the rest. He leaned close. Micah. He touched it. She turned away. That was your son. She stopped. You stitched him last? She nodded once. He looked down at the crate. One apple rolled free. She picked it up, set it beside the ribbon. He stepped back. You want me to finish it, he said. She didn't move. He stared at the blank square, at the ash, the thread. The firewood. He didn't say yes, but he didn't leave empty-handed. He sat at the table with the letter again. The burnt edge curled like dried bark. He smoothed it flat with one hand, read the name under his breath. Once, twice. He closed his eyes. Mercy. The baby looked up. He froze. She reached toward the air between them. He said it again. Mercy. She made a sound, not a word, not a cry, just breath, pushed hard from her chest. You know that name. She opened her hand. The apples inside the crate shifted. He walked over. I looked down. They were darkening, one by one turning black. He reached in, touched one, software cold. He pulled it out. Hold it to the light. The skin collapsed in his fingers. She stood inside the crate now. Say it again, he whispered. Mercy. She stepped forward. Was that you? He asked. She shook her head. He crouched. Is that who sent you? She nodded. He stood, walked to the fireplace, threw the black apple in. It hissed. No flame, just smoke. He opened the drawer where he'd hidden the old ribbon, laid it flat on the table beside the letter. He looked at the baby. You want me to dig? She blinked. Where? She pointed to the door. He stepped outside. Wind carried orchard smoke. He followed the path between the trees, each step louder than it should have been. He stopped where the rows split. To the left, stumps. To the right, crooked trunks, black bark, no fruit. He stood in the middle. I looked down. The dirt didn't look disturbed. He dropped to one knee, dug with his hands. The baby watched from the path, crate behind her. He scooped slowly until his fingers scraped something hard. He dug faster, pulled up bone, wrapped in cloth. He paused, reached farther. His hand touched metal. I pulled it free. Sheriff's badge, old, bent. He wiped it clean. I looked back at her. Your father? She didn't move. Or hers. She blinked once. He lifted more cloth. A second ribbon fell out, faded red. He picked it up, matched it to the first, same stitching, same edge. He stared at both. She was here. She stepped forward. Mercy. He held up the badge. Is this who took her? She shook her head. Then who wore it? She touched her chest. Heron, the badge had been hers. He stood. You want me to take it back? She looked toward the town. He dropped the bones back in place, covered them, pressed the dirt flat. The ribbons went in his coat. The badge stayed in his hand. He walked back through the trees. The baby didn't follow. She waited. When he reached the porch, she was already inside. The crate was gone. Only the ribbon lay on the table. He laid the badge beside it. He whispered her name one more time. Mercy. The house creaked once, and then went still. The gate didn't squeak when he touched it. Didn't give. Didn't drag. Clean wood. Straight nails. Hinges smooth. No rust. No burn marks. He ran his palm across the grain. It had never burned. The whole town had said it broke in the fire, that the flames took it when the barn went up. But it stood straight, not rebuilt, not new, untouched. He pressed harder. The memory came slowly. Not fire, not collapse. Him, pulling the gate clean off. Its post, throwing it to the dirt. Because of her. Because she screamed. Because no one came. Because she ran toward the barn and he tried to follow and the gate was in the way. He tore it off himself. He looked at his hands. That memory had never spoken before. He stepped back. Inside the house, the baby sat on the floor. The crate was empty. 12 apples are gone. Fireplace cold. He stared at the bricks behind the hearth. Something caught the light. He knelt, moved the loose stone, found leather, old, dry. A journal. He opened it. Not his handwriting. Ink faded, but the date at the top read 10 years before he was born. He flipped through the pages. Names, stories, warnings. Then a line, repeated across several pages. The debt is carried by silence. He read it again. And again. The baby didn't blink, just watched. He turned to her. You know this book? She watched. He slid it toward her. She placed one hand on it. The fire lit itself behind them. He stood, stepped back from the hearth. The baby opened the journal to the last page. One name, Mercy. The door knocked once. He walked to it, but didn't open it. Who is it? No answer. He opened the door. The widow stood there. Same braid, same bare feet. She walked in without invitation. She looked at the gate, then the fire, then the baby. She fixed your gate first, she said. He stared. What? Before she gave birth. Before she burned, she fixed your gate. Why? She was owed. By who? The widow looked down. Everyone. He stepped closer. You knew her? I gave her a thread. For what? For the quilt. She was stitching names. She was stitching in silence. He showed her the journal. She wrote this? The widow shook her head. Whose was it? Before your father, before the sheriff. He flipped to the middle. She wrote her name here. Number she carried it. Carried what? The debt. He turned to the baby. Is she carrying it now? The widow nodded. Until you speak it. I already did. Not just her name. Then what? Yours. He stepped back. She came for me. The widow looked at the crate. What's inside now? Nothing. Look again. He did. Apples were back. 12. But rotten. Black. He picked one up. Software he squeezed. It split. Inside a nail. Bent. He set it down. What does it mean? Means it's time. For what? The widow placed the journal in the fire. It didn't burn. He watched it sit there, smoke curling but no flame catching. She whispered, Speak what happened. I don't remember. You do. I was just a boy. You watched. I didn't know. You saw them take her. He sat down. She screamed. The widow nodded. I didn't go in. She fixed your gate. She saved my name. She paid for it. He put his head in his hands. The baby climbed into the crate. Hold one of the nails. She's waiting, the widow said. For what? For your truth. He looked at the fire. She died, saving me. The fire cracked. The apples turned blacker. The gate outside creaked, but it didn't move. He whispered, Her name was Mercy. The baby smiled, and for the first time, she cried. He dragged the crate out behind the barn just before sunset. No wind, no sound, just him, the wood, and the weight of things unspoken. The apples inside were soft now, seeping black at the stem. They didn't rot right. They held the smell of smoke and something older. He stacked dry wood high around the crate, lit the match, flame caught. The fire danced up the kindling, licked the sides of the barn wall. He stepped back. The fire rose, but the crate didn't burn. The apples hissed, then stilled. He stepped closer. The wood stayed pale. The apples turned wet, but nothing blackened, nothing cracked. He tossed more kindling, doused it with oil. Flames climbed higher. Still nothing. The crate sat in the fire like it belonged there. The baby wailed, loud, sharp, like pain, like memories. He turned. She stood at the edge of the barn, barefoot, watching. She'd never made a sound before, not like this. He stepped toward her. I had to try. She cried harder. He reached for her. She backed away. He knelt. I didn't know. She turned and walked toward the orchard. He followed. The fire behind them roared, but still no smoke rose, no scent, only that sound. Crackling wrong. He caught up to her under the trees. You said her name. She didn't look back. You cried when I tried to burn it. She turned, eyes wet. Is it hers? She nodded once. She gave it to me. Another nod. The fire snapped. He looked toward the barn, still glowing, still not burning. The sheriff came before midnight, boots crunching slowly in the dirt. You lit something. She wouldn't let it burn. The sheriff stood by the edge of the porch. The orchard belonged to her. I figured. She planted it before she bled. Before the fire. Before the silence. She was trying to fix something. She always was. The baby sat near the fire now. Quiet. The sheriff leaned against the post. She wasn't the first, but she was the last. He nodded. She carried the names. I saw the quilt. She stitched what the town buried. She burned for it. She was supposed to. Who said that? The sheriff looked toward the hills. Men who don't live here anymore. You mean dead? I mean gone. She left behind a child. She left behind a curse. I carried it. You buried it. I tore the gate down. I know. She fixed it first. She always started at the gate. The fire hissed, still bright, still cold. Has she ever come to you? She sat on my porch once, and she said nothing. Did you help her? I watched her walk away. The baby stood. She walked to the crate, laid one hand on it. The flames bent around her but didn't touch. The apples inside turned whole again. The sheriff stepped forward. She's not just Mercy's. No, she's all of them. The women. The ones the orchard remembers. She carries them. She carries the silence. And if I speak, she leaves. Where to? Back to the fire. She burned once. She burns every time. The fire dropped low. The crate sat untouched. He stepped forward. The baby looked at him, eyes full. He knelt beside her. I'm sorry. She reached into the crate, pulled one apple. Hold it out. He took it, bit. It tasted like ash, like dirt, like memories. But he swallowed, and for the first time the fire began to die. The apples inside blackened. The crate split at the corner. The baby stepped back. The sheriff whispered, "Debt's being paid." Smoke filled the air now. Real smoke. The kind that chokes. The kind that ends things. He stood. The fire was just fire again. And the baby. She was gone. The knock came just before dawn. 3 soft taps. No wind. No movement outside the window. The fire was low. The crate was gone. He opened the door. The man stood there. Tall. Still. No coat. No shoes. No shadow. The man didn't speak. Just looked past him. The baby stood inside, holding one last apple. The man nodded at her. She didn't move. Behind him, the sheriff stepped onto the porch. Stopped. The man turned. Their eyes locked. The sheriff fell to his knees. "I thought you burned," he said. The man stepped forward. The sheriff lowered his head. "I buried the name," the sheriff said. "I swear I didn't know she'd still—" The man held something out. A ribbon, faded red, the same as the ones from the quilt. Then the badge, bent, blackened. The man set them on the porch. "You were supposed to plant her name," he said. The sheriff looked up. "She never told me. She stitched it into ash. I didn't see it. You didn't look." The baby walked forward, still holding the apple. She stood between the man and the sheriff. He didn't touch her, just looked. The man at the door stepped back. The sheriff didn't rise. He whispered, "She forgives." The man said nothing. The sheriff looked at him. "She sent the child. She carried the orchard. She made it grow. She made it remember." The sheriff wept. "She was mine," he said. "She was theirs." The man replied. The sheriff touched the porch with his hand. "She was the last one left." "No," the man said. "She was the first to return." The sheriff closed his eyes. The baby stepped aside. The sheriff stood. I walked off the porch, toward the orchard. He didn't look back, didn't speak, just walked. The man watched. Then I looked down at the badge and the ribbon. He picked them up, handed them to the baby. She took them. Then I looked up at him, reached out. He shook his head. "Not yet." She lowered her hand. He turned to go. Stopped once. Spoke low. "She stitched in silence so you'd hear her when she was gone." Then he walked, vanished into the trees. No sound, no prints, just the wind shifting in the orchard. The baby looked up at the man who stood in the doorway. He looked back at her. "You knew him." She didn't blink. Was he her blood? She didn't answer. He looked toward the orchard. The sheriff had laid down between the rows, face turned to the soil, hands still. The apple fell from the baby's hand. It didn't roll. She stepped toward the fire, dropped the ribbon in. It burned this time, all the way through. She climbed into the crate, laid the badge beside her, closed her eyes. The fire dimmed, and the house fell quiet again. He woke to stillness, the kind that didn't belong to morning or night, the kind that came after something left. The fire was out. The air was cold. He sat up. The crate was empty. No apple, no blanket, no baby. Just ash, settled in the corners, black and fine like dust off burnt paper. He stood slow. I walked to it, touched the wood, cold, damp. The nails no longer hissed like they used to. They sat still, silent, rustless. He turned toward the table. The badge was gone. The ribbon, too. He stepped outside. The orchard wasn't moving. The gate was shut. He walked to the porch, sat on the step. I looked down the hill. Nothing. No wind. No light in the widow's house. No sound from the sheriff's land. Not even birds. He looked at the gate again. It didn't creak. Didn't learn. Just stood. Whole. He walked to the barn. No smoke. No footprints. Just dirt packed hard from old boots. Old years. The shovel leaned by the door. He picked it up, ran his thumb down the handle, then looked toward the tree that never bore fruit. "You'd want it here," he muttered. He carried the crate in his arms. No weight, still felt heavy. He knelt at the base of the tree, dug slowly, careful. The soil there was dry, ash gray beneath the surface. When the hole was deep enough, he lowered the crate. Didn't close it. I haven't covered it yet. He sat back on his heels. I should have known, he said. The air didn't respond. She was never mine to keep. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the last thing he hadn't burned, a square of quilt, the final piece, stitched with one name, Mercy. The thread was rough, hand-done. He didn't remember sewing it, but it was his stitch. He knew that. He stood. I walked to the gate, nailed the square to the center post. It flapped once in the stillness, then stopped. He stared at it. She fixed it for me, he said. And I still let it rot. The wind didn't come. The tree didn't shake. The fire stayed out. He walked back to the crate, looked inside one last time. Ash swirled as if stirred by breath. He covered it, pushed the dirt in slowly, flattened it with the back of the shovel. When it was done, he pressed his hand to the mound, said nothing, stood. I turned back to the house. The gate creaked behind him. Just once. Enough to let the wind in. He didn't go back inside. He sat on the porch and watched the gate. Didn't blink. Didn't move, just watched. It stayed closed, didn't swing, not even with the breeze that came up later, slow and dry and carrying orchard smoke. He lit no fire, drank no water, ate nothing, just sat. The sun crawled up behind the trees, pale, thin. It didn't touch the dirt like it used to. He stood finally. I walked to the tree again. The mound was still there, still solid. He didn't touch it. He walked the length of the orchard, counted the trees, the ones still alive, the ones burned, the ones bent sideways like they'd turned to listen and stayed that way too long. Halfway down the row, he stopped. She stood there, the widow. Hair loose now, not braided, just hanging. She wasn't carrying anything. He said, "You saw her leave." The widow nodded. "Does she say anything?" "No," the widow said, "she never did. She left the badge. She returned what wasn't hers. She left the crate. She knew you'd know what to do. She cried." The widow's voice cracked. She waited too long. Was she angry? She was tired. He stepped closer. "Why now?" The widow looked toward the orchard. "Because something opened." "What?" "The truth." He shook his head. "I don't understand." "You do." "I said her name." "You remembered it." "I buried her right." "Not yet," she said. He tensed. "I laid her on the ground." "You laid her memory." "What more is there?" The widow's eyes filled. "You." He backed up. "I carried her," he said. "I kept her warm. I fed her. I looked." "You watched." He didn't answer. She stepped forward. "You stayed quiet when it mattered." He swallowed hard. "I didn't light the fire." "But you didn't put it out." She ran inside. "You closed the gate." "I tore it off." "After." He looked at the tree behind her. "She screamed my name." "I heard her too." "She bled." "We let her." The wind picked up. The gate creaked again. He turned to it. "It doesn't swing now." "It doesn't need to," she said. He walked to it, placed his hand on the square. The name felt warm. Stitch, raised against the wood. Thread tight. She was a girl when I met her. She was a woman when they silenced her. She tried to speak. She stitched instead. He stared down the path. "She told me once," he said, "that apples grow where people lie." The widow closed her eyes. "I never understood." "You do now." He stepped back. "I don't want the land. She gave it to you anyway. I don't want the debt. You held it long enough." He turned to her. "She's gone." "She's planted." He flinched. "Don't say that." "She grew something." He whispered. "She left behind silence." "No," the widow said. "She left you behind." He looked at the crate buried under the tree. "That can't be enough." "She never asked for enough," she said. "She asked for the truth." The wind shifted. Smoke came again, but no fire. Just the smell. He sat in the dirt, crossed his legs like he was 10 again. "She came to my porch quietly." She always was. She wouldn't cry. She already had. She looked at me like she knew me. She did. She was born after the fire. "No," the widow said. "She came from it." He turned slowly. "You're saying she wasn't—" "She was all of them." He felt dizzy. I'm not built for ghosts. Then don't call her one. He stared at the sky. What was she? Stitch, ash, thread, memory, debt, mercy. He laughed once, bitter. That sounds like a ghost to me. No, the widow said. That sounds like a daughter. He froze. I never held her. You held her long enough. I never called her mine. She knew. He shook his head. She never cried for me. She cried through you. He didn't speak. The wind stopped. The orchard hushed. He asked, What now? The widow looked at the gate. You walk through. Where to? Where she's buried. I already did. No, she said. Not like this. He stood. He faced the tree. He walked slowly. He stepped past the mound. The dirt crunched underfoot. He turned toward the barn. She was there. Mercy. Not aged, not broken, not on fire, just standing. Hair dark, eyes calm. She didn't speak. He said, I'm sorry. She nodded once. He stepped closer. I should have pulled you out. You did, she said. His throat caught. When? When you said my name. He fell to his knees. I don't want to forget you. You already didn't. She stepped forward, touched his chest. You kept the badge. He nodded. You planted the square. He nodded again. You're done. He looked up. What happened to me? You live. He smiled, small and broken. That's it? She stepped back. That's enough. She faded into the trees. He stood. He walked to the gate. It creaked once, just enough to let the wind in. He didn't close it. He turned, sat on the porch. The widow had gone. The orchard moved like breath, and inside, the fire lit itself again.